First, let me briefly address some of my thoughts after the game. First, we played an outstanding team in Clemson, and Coach Sweeney has been on a remarkable run with his football team and what they've been able to accomplish, and a good football team that we lost all three phases of the game against. So I want to make sure we get credit where credit's due. But like I said after the game, and then after the game, going home, watching the North Carolina State-Syracuse game, and then watching our film from Clemson that night and watching it again with our coaches on Sunday, I felt there was a handful of players that didn't play up to our standards and didn't do the things that we expect out of them, and what we want from them, and how you play here at FSU, and we addressed it internally, and we're going to make sure that we continue to build a culture and our program the way that we want to, the way that I know how. And we're going to make sure that we have the individuals in here that's going to live up to those standards. That's going to be great teammates, who's going to compete, and guys that's going to put FSU first. It's going to always be that way, and we're not going to make any excuses about it. That's how it's going to be, and that's what we expect out of our guys every time they line up to play. And so, like I said, we addressed those things and had a good practice yesterday, and we're looking forward to playing North Carolina State.
All right, questions?
Good evening, Coach. I know you said your players quit. Just in what areas did they exactly quit in?
Well, I just felt like we didn't compete like we were competing at the beginning of the game, and when things didn't go our way, we didn't compete and finish plays and finish the game like we're capable of. So I think whenever you're out there on the football field, if you're not competing, then you're in the wrong spot, and you should be competing at a high level. And that's every individual, and we didn't get that out of a handful of guys.
Go to your right, Sean.
Coach, you mentioned that you dealt with it internally, but also along with the players who quit and also the players who got ejected for throwing punches, have you decided what the specific consequences would be?
Yeah, I have, and some of those things are done internally, and the guys that threw punches, they won't be playing in the first half of the next game.
Willie, after looking at the film, was it what you thought it was when you watched it? Did you more players, less players, about the same?
Well, I say it was just a handful of players. We had majority of our players competed and played the way that we want them to. Again, we got beat by a better team, and we made mistakes that you can't make against a team like Clemson. We made some of the same mistakes that we made early in the year, and that's frustrating. But when you play against a team like Clemson and make those mistakes, they're going to expose you. And so we didn't do that. But like I said, we had majority of our guys doing the things we want to. There's a handful of guys, and it only takes a handful that can mess up the whole thing that's going on. And so we got to address those things and make sure those things don't continue to happen with this football team. That's part of changing the culture.
Maybe without getting into specifics if you don't want to, but do you meet with those kids that you think did quit individually?
Mm-hmm. I meet with them all. I mean, individually and as a team. I mean, our entire football team need to understand exactly what we mean about quitting, what we mean about competing, and what the standard is here at Florida State. When we go out there on the football field and play, it's going to be that way, no ifs, ands, and buts about it. And we're going to hold everyone accountable, coaches and players, to live up to that standard.
Willie, I guess when a game like that happens later in the game, is it more understandable? I mean, are there different shades of understanding when it comes to the level the guys are competing? I mean, it's one thing when it's 28-0, maybe something different when it's 48-0, or no? No,
I don't. I think, again, you got to have a standard in how you want to play and how you want to be. It don't matter what the situation is. One thing you do, you compete until to the end of the game. And as we changing our culture and how we want it to be, it can't be that way. It can't be up and down. It can't be you understand a certain situation. You got to understand the standard. And if you understand the standard, you won't put yourself in those situations so that we have to go through those things. So it shouldn't have been that way. We did it to ourselves. We know what we did, and we got to correct those things. But again, it goes back to having a standard and what we want to be and how we want to be, and making sure that everybody's living up to that standard.
Go to Wayne in the front.
Coach, DeAndre left the game with an injury. What's his status for NC State?
DeAndre, he's beat up. He took some hits in that game, and I'm sure, understandably, he's beat up after a physical ball game. And again, he's day to day.
Coach, something that you've mentioned is that you couldn't have was injuries along the offensive line. But even with that, before the season, could you anticipate the offense struggling like it is?
No, I didn't. I mean, I actually thought we were gonna roll. Coming in, I guess that's the positive attitude I had, and just the way our guys worked. Our guys work, they practice, and they're talented. I think the one thing that I couldn't judge, or none of us could, is exactly how we're going to be in game action and how those things go. And you can't reciprocate that in practice and get those things. The thing you can't get is how your team's going to respond when adversity hit. You can't get that until you actually go into the games with your guys. And we're here, and you're seeing it now. And now it's just trying to get our guys over, dealing with things when it don't go our way. A lot of our issues is more mental than it is physically, and that's a huge part of the game of football, and what you're doing is mental. We got to be mentally tough, and we're not there yet, and that's part of changing the culture and getting our team to get that way.
Go to your left, Regine.
Coach, besides a couple guys you mentioned will be sitting out that first half, do you anticipate any changes in terms of starters, major contributors, going into this game? And if so, can you share some of that with us?
I prefer not to, but I'm sure after evaluating the film, we're going to, again, make sure we put the right guys on the field in the right position to help us win. And that's going to play to the standard that we need them to play in. And guys that's going to compete every single day in practice and be ready for the game, showing us that in practice. So I don't know if I answered your question, but I tried.
Coach, with Notre Dame and Florida Gators still ahead of the schedule.
Nope, not going there.
Not going.
We got North Carolina State.
Do you guys still think you guys can secure a bowl game?
We're worried about North Carolina State. We got to take care.
How does the team bounce back from a loss like this going up against North Carolina State?
Well, we go practice our tails off, and we remember how we felt on Sunday night, and make sure that we don't do those things that put us in that position, and knowing that there's going to be a hungry football team after us, and we're going to their place, a tough place to play, and we got to make sure we practice the way we want to play on Saturday, execute that way, and make sure we stick together and play for one another on Saturday to make sure that, again, we don't feel the way that we felt the other night. It's a big-time game for us, important game for us, and we got to focus on North Carolina State, a good football team.
Corey?
Not to belabor the point, but I guess that's what I do. When you, in the film study, did you show certain plays that you thought kids weren't trying to the rest of the team?
I think that's you always got to do that, not just with the individual. I mean, if you just do it with the individual, somebody else might miss out on something that could have got corrected, and they don't do it. But showing the entire team, I think whenever we have losses and things like that, we try to address it as a team and not just individuals. You meet with those individuals and tell them, again, your thoughts and how we're going to respond to it. But more importantly, you got to make sure you're educating your entire football team on things that we want to do and things that we're not going to accept.
And can you sense in the room, like maybe the players, the ones that were trying the whole game, getting upset? Is that what you're looking for? Can you sense that?
I sensed that on the field. We had guys that were upset and guys that wanted to do it right. And guys were saying the things that they needed to. And you had guys encouraging other teammates. Again, you only need a few that can mess up everything else. And those things they can't happen. You get in the game, you got to play. And there's no way you can come back and beat anybody when you're down and out or you arguing amongst each other. We got to stay locked in. We got to, bottom line, we got to deal with adversity a lot better. That's something we've been struggling with for a while, and that's an important part of what we're doing, an important part of what we got to correct around here.
Go to Chris over here.
After the game, did you see the locker room holding itself accountable, players holding each other accountable, maybe more so than you have in the past?
I did. I mean, and I saw it by guys I probably wanted it from early in the year, and you got it from some of those guys on Saturday night, and it needed to be said, and it needed to be said by some of the guys that said the things that they did. You know, now you just hope they continue to say it, and guys react to it in a positive way like they need to. You know, but you saw it. Like I said, majority of our guys gave us what we wanted. You know, and I applaud those guys for stepping up and saying what they did. You know, that's ultimately is how it's going to change. Those guys holding each other accountable and letting each other know when they're not living up to a standard or playing to a standard.
I presume that's a necessity in culture change.
Absolutely.
The locker room holding itself
Absolutely. Absolutely. You got to have it, you know, and again, I wish it could happen just day one, you know, but those things don't happen overnight. Changing the culture don't happen overnight. It's a process, but as long as there's progress within that, you'll get to where we want to go. And part of it is in recruiting too, you know, that all of that is part of changing the culture, and we're not going to just get there today. That's going to come with time.
Willie, with Francois being day-to-day, at what point during the week, if he can't go and practice, because you've got a game plan obviously for NC State, would you make the decision to go to James? Will he have to practice at a certain point to make that decision, or how does that work?
Well, playing quarterback, you got to practice, and so we're going to assess that throughout the week and see where he is. But you got to get practice. You got to get majority of the reps to be able to go play like we need for him to play. So he's going to have to practice in order to play.
Gotcha. And just real quick, too, I know there's a handful of guys were banged up. Dontavius, Levanta, Stanford, Robert Cooper, I think were the four that I can remember. Any update on their statuses?
Yeah, I know Cooper and Upshar, they'll be out this week. And then the other guys are day-to-day.
We're going to go to Wayne.
Coach, after going back and watching the film, obviously it wasn't an overall great performance. Was there anything positive you could take away from it?
No. That was embarrassing. You know, you don't take nothing positive from embarrassment. You know, we gotta learn. And we gotta teach as coaches and make sure we have our players ready to play and like I say, everybody's got to step up and give FSU everything we have. You know, FSU's been good to all of us, and we all owe it to our school, our fan base, and all to be at our best every time we step out on the football field. And it's disappointing we wasn't that way on Saturday, and we all got to see to it that it's never that way again.
Back to your left, Ira.
Willie, I had a couple of special teams questions. On the roughing the kicker, was that a kick block called, or was Asante just trying to do too much? Or?
It was him doing a little too much, you know, and again, that's those things that we got to make sure we correct, you know, and make sure our guys understand, again, when to make a play and when not to make a play, and just playing smart football. And in that case, it wasn't smart at all.
And then also, you guys have had the issue for a lot of the season, guys trying to run back kicks that maybe are ill-advised. What's the rule, or what? And I know you had a change. Amir wasn't there, so that probably didn't help. But you know, kind of the decision making to when to take kicks out or not.
Well, you have the off returner who usually run and stand in front of the returner and tell him to hold and stay in there, and so he can't run out, so he doesn't make those decisions. You know, and on a particular play, you're probably talking about when Grant ran out. Trayshawn didn't necessarily get over in front of him. He was kind of on the side of him, telling me you got two freshmen there that just made a mistake. One didn't get exactly what he's supposed to make sure that he come out, and another freshman want to make a play and go out and run and made a bad decision there. And again, it's unfortunate that we're making those mistakes right now, and again, in a game like that. But those things we got to correct. We got to continue to teach and try to get our guys to do it. That's the first time where we ran out like that, so that's something new to where. But again, it's another issue that we got to correct, and you hate it, and I hate it, especially when it's young guys. But they got to get it right too.
Anything else for Coach?
No NC State questions? we play them this week.
I actually had one and one on Marvin. What late in the game, he's still tackling guys behind the line. It looks like he's playing really hard. Is that a guy moving forward that you can lean on and this program can lean on a little bit?
Oh, absolutely. Marvin is everything we look for. Marvin is, when we say what we want an FSU football player to be like he is, that's a spitting image. He's a definition of what we want a Florida State football player to look like. I knew that from day one, that it was important to him when he decided to come here. He let the whole entire team know that. He's one of the guys that step up and say something when it's not right, and let them know. But he's passionate about this place, and he's passionate about being one of the best that play here. And you see it in his effort, for a guy like that, and to play as many plays as he do, and he don't complain or do anything. He give you 110% every time. That's what you're looking for. And those competitors, those are guys we want to continue to bring in here.
And then with NC State, he throws for a lot of yards and he doesn't get hit much. How do you, I know he gets rid of the ball quick and he's got a good offensive line. How do you, I guess, try to pressure him? How do you get him off his spot and make it tough for them?
Well, I think when they have protection that can help protect them in some ways, sometimes it just comes down to one-on-one. Some guys got to win some one-on-one battles too. You can scheme and try to do things, but a lot of time it comes down to winning some one-on-one battles. And you need that in ball games, and you need that when you have a guy that's probably haven't been sacked as much. Maybe some guys haven't been winning those one-on-one battles, and we feel like we have a talented D-line that can win some of those battles, and we're going to have to in order to get to him. He's a really good quarterback, and they have a really good scheme to be able to get the ball out into his guys' hands, and we got to do that, and then we got to be better on the back end.
On the left side.
Coach, North Carolina State's given up 41 and 51 in back-to-back weeks. What have you kind of seen from that defense? What do they do well? What are they not doing well?
Well, they're good at stopping the run, and I think they've given up a lot of explosive plays in the passing game that probably hurt them a lot. I mean, I know in the Syracuse game you saw they had a lot of explosive plays in the passing game and that, and again in the Clemson game, that's a really good football team that they went against, and so and the same thing in that game. So, but they're a good football team, and I think they're giving up 25 points a game and about 100-yard rushing a game, and so again we got to come play our A game once again another week.
Willie, in addition, you mentioned Marvin as being someone who was giving consistent effort throughout the game. Who are other guys who were, I guess, building blocks who are showing that even in a loss like the other day?
I don't want to really get the name of there's so many of them. It's hard to just name them all without forgetting somebody. Like I said, it was enough guys. We had majority of our guys again doing it the right way, how we wanted to. Again, it's a handful of guys that just were kind of like bad eggs, and it'll mess it up for everyone. But we got to make sure that those things don't happen anymore, and our football team understand that that's unacceptable and it will not happen again if they want to be on this football team.
Aslan in the back.
You've discussed a lot of these problems stem from culture issues here, but with the chase and spring practices, preseason camp, the trip down to IMG, 9 weeks of football season now, what parts of your culture do you think have taken hold of this program and are positive?
Well, I think our guys are trying to give us what we want for the most part. Our guys are so much better in the classroom of what they're doing. Our guys have been pretty good in the community and doing the things they need to do from that standpoint. And from a football standpoint, they're both sides of the ball are learning something new from a standpoint. The part that we're missing, if you ask me, if anything, is just how we deal when things get tough with us. And that's one of the biggest challenges when taking over a program and try to change things is change ways and change people when things go wrong. Sometimes human nature, you just give up rather than fighting through it, and that's adversity, and our guys learning to deal with it. And part of it is some guys are stuck that way, some get better with it, and a big part of it is you got to recruit those guys. You got to do a great job of recruiting and digging in deep and finding out what kind of players you're getting, who's gonna fight when it's tough, who relish those opportunities when it get tough, to go out and to make something happen, and that's work. And we got to work to continue to do that and get there, and we will. And again, I wish I could have got it all accomplished in the spring, But again, like I say, with that adversity, we weren't going to know that until the season, and we know it now. We see it, and we got to continue to work to try to make those things right. I think with us and our football team, it's more mental than it is physically for our guys, and that's a big part of the game, and that's part of teaching, and that's part of us again changing that coaching and to get there. It's just not going to get there overnight.
With 4 regular season games left and that new redshirt rule, do you look forward to playing some of these freshmen that haven't played? And are some of them capable, ready at this point, of playing in college football games?
Well, I think we're going to play the guys that we feel like are ready to play in the game. We've been doing that throughout the season now, and but we're not just going to play them just to play guys. They got to be ready, and we're trying to win ball games. So we got 4 games left, and that can make a huge difference in our season. So we're going to make sure we're playing the right guys that's going to execute at a high level, that's going to compete at a high level, and give us all something to be proud of.
Go back over here to your right.
I know you mentioned the defensive line. Can you quickly just talk about Burns and what type of game you expect for him to have this week?
Well, Brian has been Mr. Consistent for us throughout the season. He's been playing well and doing some great things for us. And you can see now teams are trying to they're game planning around them. And I expect for Burns to continue to do what he's been doing for us. He's been a great leader for us. He's been a great player for us, and we need him to continue to do that. And hopefully those ends on the other side, hopefully they start making the plays they can make now, because the teams are trying to use extra guy to protect Burns, to block Burns. So those things open up other opportunities for other guys, and we need those guys to take advantage of it.
You mentioned the team not being mentally tough. So how difficult is it for you now after this adversity of a Clemson game? Is this one of these times where you have to put your arm around these guys, or do you have to be a little maybe more stern than you'd like to be at this point in the season?
No, I think you always got to be stern in everything you do and demanding of everything you do, And there's a time when guys need an arm around them and loving up, and there's a time when you need to lay the law down on them, But again, I think for us it's about a standard, and every single day holding our guys accountable to that standard. That's the only way we're going to get to where we want to go, and that's got to be an everyday thing, not a sometime thing. It's an everyday thing. It's an everyday thing in everything we do, whether it's on the football field, in the classroom, or socially. It's accountability, and it's a standard that we got to live to and be by, and we as coaches got to hold them to that, support staff, academics, and everyone, hold those guys to a standard. And that's the only way we're going to get to where we want to go. And again, it's not going to happen overnight, but it's going to happen within time. And a lot of those things have changed for us. But I think that one last thing we need to change is just dealing with it when it gets tough. Adversity introduces itself. Excuse me?
I thought you were asking us to complete a sentence for you. I apologize.
No, I was just saying adversity introduces a man to himself. And our guys got to understand that, and it is what it is. But we gotta attack it. Don't run from it.